So this is from chapter 15, Vulnerability Does Not Equal Weakness. In Silicon Valley, admitting mistakes and showing your vulnerable side is one of the biggest social faux pas that I'm tired of trying to follow. That's Mar and Kate in May of 2016. I met my wife, Geraldine, on a bus coming back from a Weezer concert in November 2001. I gave her my email address, which she thought was a brush off. Back in the early 2000s, the whole "I never got your email" line was pretty believable. 2 weeks later, we had our first date. I maintain that it seemed like a lifetime before she contacted me. And a year after that, we moved in together. Lucky break for me. My paychecks quickly dwindled from paltry to non-existent. My credit card debt skyrocketed, and only her steady jobs kept the lights on and the rent paid. I proposed in 2007. We got married in 2008. And ever since, we've had as close to a storybook romance as Fezzik and Inigo's in The Princess Bride. That's right, Fezzik and Inigo, not Wesley and Buttercup. Those two had a messed up disaster of a relationship characterized by non-communication and a martyr-victim complex bordering on the absurd. But in 2012, I thought we were doomed. That June, Geraldine went to see her primary care physician about worsening migraines she'd been having the past couple of years. Her doctor ordered an MRI, noting that it was extremely unlikely to reveal anything, but was worthwhile to rule out some potential causes. Cue ominous music. I didn't accompany Geraldine for that first scan. She went alone on a Thursday, lay down in a giant tube while some magnets and cameras rotated around her head, and waited for the results. The next morning, she received a call from her doctor, who said they found a brain tumor on the scan, attached to her hypothalamus, the bit right in the middle of everything. They nevertheless tried to sound reassuring. We won't worry until we know there's something to worry about. Geraldine and I were unconvinced. The clinic also sent out an email with a link to the automated results in her online health account. We logged in together and looked at the scans, but couldn't really understand what we were seeing. What we did understand was the radiologist's note, left helpfully next to the images that read, 1 centimeter mass on hypothalamus. Worrisome for glioma.
Still hard?
Man, still hard, huh? Oof. It's fine, like she's okay. All right. In the era before search engines, we'd have spent the weekend nervously worried about what glioma meant, but generally waiting until Geraldine's doctor appointment the following Tuesday. But despite Geraldine's suggestion that I not Google the phrase glioma, we spent Friday reading about how average life expectancy from discovery was 3 to 7 years, not very pleasant ones, with survival rates under 20%. I broke down. I tried not to say anything, but I've never had much of a poker face. She asked me to be honest. I told her I was scared she was going to die. In fact, I'd sort of convinced myself of it. Geraldine and I had always had a storybook kind of love filled with humor and happiness, partnership and kindness. After the diagnosis, my brain went to a dark place, convinced that the price to pay for a romance like ours was a tragic end. I was so scared. I was so scared to spend the rest of my life without her. I spent Saturday and Sunday in alternating states of sadness and shock. Then, needing to make sense of it all, I asked Geraldine what she wanted to do over the next few years. It seemed like an important question, particularly if these were going to be our last ones together. That week, should have prepped first. You know, you think about like, oh, well, I'll read from this chapter. It'll be great, you know.
The one where I almost lose my wife.
The one where I almost lose my wife. That's the chapter. Make sure the cameras are on me for that. That weekend was heartbreaking and hard, but it also gave me perspective I'd never before had. When there's a potential end in sight, everything that's not important quickly gives way to the stuff that really does matter. We talked in ways we probably never otherwise would have about what we wanted from the years ahead, what we didn't, who we needed to see and didn't. We made phone calls to friends, we ate every meal together, we stayed mostly off our computers and phones. We drove around our favorite Seattle neighborhoods. I bought a ukulele and taught myself to play a couple songs. I play them only for Geraldine. On Monday, I went into work. We'd agreed over the weekend that until we knew for sure, we should treat the radiologist's concern with skepticism and not give in to irrational, potentially unwarranted fear. But I was a mess. Nothing to do with Moz seemed to matter. I couldn't focus or contribute in meaningful ways. The discomfort of having to pretend that everything was normal drove me mad. I kept up the facade for about 2 hours. After lunch, I called an impromptu all-hands meeting in the lobby. At the time, the only space big enough, just barely, to hold us all. I didn't say much. I could barely make it through a few short sentences. I just told everyone that the prior week, Geraldine had been diagnosed with a brain tumor and that we'd find out more soon. And until we did, I was going to be a wreck. I told them I needed their help to make it through, and Moz did too. Then Jess, my assistant at the time, asked if they could all hug me. I sobbingly agreed, and we shared a giant group hug. I went back to work after that with a powerful sense of relief, of support, of camaraderie. I experienced an amazing pride for Moz and the people there with me. I don't think I've ever had a more professionally affirming experience in my career. I cried in front of everyone in my company, and now you, and not for a second did I think anyone thought worse of me for it. I felt safe. A month later, Geraldine had brain surgery to biopsy her tumor. The doctors told us it was a pilocytic astrocytoma, a very mild form of tumor that poses almost no long-term risk. After a long recovery, she's in great health, and yearly scans have shown the tumor remains non-impactful. Thank you, science and modern medicine, and Obamacare, which saved her from having a pre-existing condition that would have invalidated our insurance. All right, I'm going to leave us there.